With the recent 3.0 reveal, Remembrance seems to be taking the spotlight as the main faction of the upcoming story. Unless of course something happens to them. With the Trailblazers set to resonate with Remembrance and Black Swan recently becoming our traveling companion, it seems like a good time to discuss Remembrance's main faction, the Garden of Recollection. While the Garden isn't exactly a new group, since the game's release we have learned a bit more about them. So in this video, we're going to talk about who they are, what their goals are, and what they might want from the Eternal Land Amphoreus. Before we discuss these living memes, if you want to see more Honkai Star Rail content, do consider subscribing to the channel. If this topic sounds familiar to you, it's mostly because some time ago I did release a similar video talking about the factions that follow Remembrance. Since then, there's been a lot of new information and we've actually met some Memokeepers on our journey. Because we'll be talking about some of them here, just expect there to be some spoilers for Black Swan and Mr. Reca. One final thing is that given we are likely to learn more about Remembrance in 3.0, it's likely more things will continue to change, just in case you're watching this after 3.0 is released. Let's first start with the Aeon of Remembrance, Fuli. If you didn't already know at this point, the primary goal of the Aeon of Remembrance is the collection of memories and events. It's said that the reason they do this is to prepare for the birth of the next universe, after the current one is inevitably destroyed. Since it's implied that Fuli copy and pastes the event of the existing universe into the next one, this likely means that the next universe would play out largely in the same way. This suggests that humanity and practically everything else is doomed to live in a predefined and repeating universe. As their primary function is to record all of existence, they often appear in every location where a significant event is happening. Each memory Fuli witnesses is absorbed into themselves, with every microscopic slice of crystal being a memory, and why Fuli appears like a giant chandelier. While it's only mentioned in whispers, the followers of Fuli believe that the Aeon actually stores its vast collection of memories not only within itself, but also in its own realm, the Eden of Blessed Insight. All memories are said to eventually converge here, and it acts as sort of like a carbon copy of the existing universe used to reboot the next one. Now, where does the Garden of Recollection actually come in? Well, we don't actually know of their origins, but like other paths, it's likely that after the birth of Fuli, individuals began flocking to them and treating them as their god. The people who would go on to form the garden likely realized what Fuli was doing and, like other factions, wanted to assist their god in their work. Unlike those other factions though, Fuli is said to actually acknowledge and even assist the garden directly, granting their own power to its members. This is what allowed some among the Garden to take on a purely mimetic form and become Memokeepers, which according to Welt are the Remembrance's emanators. The Garden essentially does the same thing Fuli does, in that they go around the universe collecting memories and storing them in light cones and memory bubbles. The main consensus among them is that Fuli alone can't capture all memories in the universe, and given they focus only on the critical ones, this might cause memories of different worlds and events deemed unimportant to be lost forever. This is likely why the Garden is so steadfast in their mission, as to lose a single memory means that when the universe is remade, those memories become permanently lost. Since Fuli is just copy-pasting one universe to the next, data not included in her celestial hard drive won't be brought over. Honestly, it's a pretty noble cause if you think about it. It's kinda like not wanting to leave anything left behind. That said, there are some among the Garden that don't actually agree with this, and here's where we talk about the other sub-faction of the Garden, the cremators. While most that follow Fuli do align themselves with the Garden, some among them don't believe that every memory is worth keeping. They believe that it is their duty to filter the memories of the Aeons and dispose of those that they deem to be unimportant. There's two reasons as to why they do this. Firstly, some among them believe that the burden of holding all these memories takes a toll on their Aeon. By removing memories that they deem are unnecessary, they lighten the load from their Aeon and allow them to better continue their mission. Where they got the idea that Fuli has a space storage problem is anyone's guess. The other side of this is just pure hubris and selfishness. In Black Swan's character story, there's a little exposition from an unnamed Memokeeper about the cremators. They mentioned that many in the universe often obsess over the past and aspire to become Memokeepers only so that they can live within the memories of their heyday. Such individuals eventually degenerate to become cremators, changing memories or outright deleting them to suit their own purposes. So generally, the cremators are a hidden sub-faction within the Garden who believe that not all memories are worth keeping. Now, based on what we've just discussed, it's pretty straightforward what exactly the Garden does. Its Memokeepers simply go around the universe recording things, and given their role, you might think much like the Watchers from Marvel that they don't ever intervene. But each Memokeeper is an individual with their own thoughts and opinions, and I don't think that Fuli does performance reviews because when we look at some of the Memokeepers, they seem to basically do whatever they want. So let's talk about a few that we've met up till this point to get a better idea of how the Garden might actually operate compared to what they advertise. The first Memokeeper we meet is actually Messenger, who snuck onto the Express and acts as the NPC for the Forgotten Hall Mirror. Of the three I will talk about, Messenger is the strictest when it comes to the rules. She is on the Express to collect memories of the Trailblazer, as the Garden deems their memories to be extremely rare and special. The Messenger follows the instructions of the Garden to the letter, and while she did reveal herself to the Trailblazer, she also threatened to wipe the memories of the other passengers if the Trailblazer were to ever reveal her presence. She did this not out of malice, but purely because those are the rules of the Garden, and the Memokeepers are there only to record memories and not intervene. She was also involved when March went searching for her past with Fu Xuan, and despite trying to stop them, she eventually relented and showed March her origin. Next up, we have Black Swan, who, as you know, we met in Penacony. While the Messenger is a stickler for the rules, Black Swan is someone who is kinda middle of the road. Black Swan truly believes that memories are important and does whatever she can to ensure they are preserved in the most pristine condition, that is, with as little interruption as possible. This work ethic could be due to her upbringing, as her mother often had bouts of amnesia and often reminded Black Swan of how important memories were. I've talked about her past in another video if you're curious, but despite her belief of remembrance, there are moments where she bends the rules a bit. She mostly does this to ensure key figures like the Trailblazer continue making memories, but sometimes we do see her curiosities get the better of her, where she allows things to happen just to see how they might play out. Even in Penacony, she used the Trailblazer as a way to push the story forward in order to record memories of the place which, according to her, no other Memokeeper had achieved before. I have a feeling that Black Swan suggested Amphoreus as the Nameless's next destination, largely for the same reasons as what she did in Penacony. Having seen firsthand what happened there, she likely believes that the Trailblazer would be able to break the three-way deadlock it's currently experiencing and get the story moving forward. So Black Swan is sort of the middle table Garden operative. She does believe in what they do, but is willing to bend the rules a bit to get what she wants. The last Memokeeper is likely someone who only cares about what they want, which puts them at the opposite end of the spectrum from the Messenger. I'm talking of course about Mr. Reca, who we meet in 2.6. While most Memokeepers are meant to only observe and record, Reca seems to be more than happy to be directly involved. He once remarked that he views the lives of ordinary people as uninteresting, as they often always follow some kind of script, like rules, habits, or destinies. Throughout the 2.6 story, he intervened several times on behalf of the main characters. He helped the Trailblazer escape from Prof. Nena, told them how to combat the mimetic virus, brought a DJ turntable for Robin to use, and even offered to let Repa know where Dr. Primitive was hiding. While this likely had to do with his own survival, given he was vulnerable to the mimetic virus, throughout the story he mentions several times about acting as the director, moving the story along as he sees fit. He knowingly assisted the main character to change the story into something he thought was better. This is why some have suspected that he is a cremator or is on his way to becoming one, changing and getting involved with things because that's what he wants, rather than allow the story to evolve in the way that it's meant to. So between these three Memokeepers, we can see that while they each adhere to the overarching goals of the Garden, each has their own ways of doing things. At the end of the day, each Memokeeper is their own individual, shaped and influenced by their personal experiences, and might act in the way they feel best fulfills the mission of remembrance. Now, despite me saying that some of the Memokeepers are seemingly doing whatever they want, there is an interesting reason that could be behind their behavior. If Fuli does copy the same universe from the current to the next, perhaps each Memokeeper already knows how things are meant to play out. As such, their interventions aren't really interventions, and this is how it's actually meant to play out, though I doubt Reca would be happy about that. This all then takes us to Amphoreus. What could these memory archivers possibly want there? My first guess is that they are here to do what they have always done, to observe and collect memories. The problem is, and as Black Swan mentions, there are currently 3 paths coveting this world. So perhaps the story of Amphoreus just can't continue given this stalemate, and much like Penacony, Black Swan is using the Nameless, the Trailblazers specifically, to get the story going. Alternatively, the Remembrance might also want to save this planet for some other reason entirely. Perhaps they themselves are one of the 3 paths that covered the Eternal Land, though why we don't know yet. Another possibility is that given we know Memokeepers like Mr. Reca exists, perhaps some of them want to steer the story in a specific direction. The story in 3.0 seems like a multifaceted one with many different players and paths involved, so maybe those like Reca see this as an opportunity to shape the story into something they deem worthy of an epic. It's also possible that some cremators are secretly working in the background to ensure this place isn't captured in Fuli's memory banks due to the strife and problems the world has. Now, what they might actually end up doing is really anyone's guess. It's a bit premature to make wild guesses about what their role is, as it's not even confirmed what the story would even actually be. I also didn't really touch on March in this video, but I'm sure most of you know she has a pretty strong connection with this faction and path. Given they will play a big role in the upcoming 3.0 story, perhaps we might learn something extra about March as well. So I won't talk about it for now until such a time where more lore around her surfaces. For now, this is all we know about the Garden of Recollection. Of course, the story in Star Rail is an ever-evolving one, and as more is revealed, it's unavoidable that these types of videos will have to be remade. So consider this the first one for Remembrance, with more to come in the future. I'll end the video here, and do share any thoughts you have on the true purpose of the garden in 3.0 or theories I haven't mentioned in the comments below. If you found the video entertaining, do consider liking and subscribing to the channel. Thanks so much for watching, and as usual, have a nice day.